Hello class, this video is going to be on the placeholder character and the seventh character. You will find the guideline I'm going to cover right now in section I, Roman numeral 1, Conventions, General Coding Guidelines, and Chapter Specific Guidelines, specifically numbers 4 and 5. 4 speaks to the placeholder character of an X. 5 speaks to the seventh character, and in 5 it says if a code that requires a seventh character is not 6 characters, then a placeholder X must be used to fill in the empty spaces. It is referring to the X in this placeholder carrier. Let's start off by looking at a seventh character, a code that requires 7 characters. I chose fracture codes because there are some good examples there. So here we are at S42, fracture of a shoulder and an upper arm. S42 has a 4th character indicator. What I need to point out to you is not just the notes that are here, but there is also a listing, a grid so to speak, that tells you the appropriate 7th character that's to be added to any of the codes in the S42 has to be one of these. Your medical documentation will tell you which one of these you should use. If it's an initial encounter for a closed fracture, it would be an A. If it's an initial encounter for an open fracture, it would be a D. Subsequent for a routine healing, for a fracture with routine healing, is a D. G, subsequent encounter for a fracture with delayed healing. K, subsequent encounter for a fracture with non-union. P, subsequent encounter for a fracture with malunion. And S for a sequela. Your medical documentation will identify which one of these you should use. So the S42 has a 4th character indicator. So let's look at the 4th character. That has a 5th character indicator. At the 4th character, you see the 5th character indicator. So we'll go indented one more. Here are the 5th characters. And now you see a 6th character indicator. So we come down to the 6 characters. And there is your 7th character indicator. So you would choose one of these 7 characters to populate at the end here as the 7th character. So this would be S42.001, A or B or D or G or K or P or S. So I think you get the point on that one. I want to move on a little bit further and look at the examples for the placeholder. It's a little bit different. Okay, so I chose S33 for this, and not covering any of the notes here. S33 has a grid that a 7th character is to be added to each code from an S33 category, and here are the 7th characters that you have to choose from. So starting back at our code category, I go through the same process that I did before. The S33 has a 4th character indicator. So we'll come down to the 4th character indicator. And now we see a blue 7th character indicator. Now, while the guidelines are identical in any publisher's ICD-10-CM manual, the actual symbols that any publisher uses is developed by the publisher themselves. We've specifically chosen the ICD-10-CM expert manual for these classes because there is a wealth of information in these books that you may not find in another version of the book with another publisher. So down here you will see we have the 4th character required, the 5th character required, the 6th character required, the 7th character required, and see the blue 7 is an extension alert. So it's not only telling you that it needs a 7th character, but you're also going to have to use a placeholder. So in this case right here, we have 4 characters. The 7th character will be an A, a D, or an S. We have to populate the 5th and 6th character with the placeholder X. So this is how this code would be written if it was an initial encounter. So I just chose one for the example. S33.0XXA if it was an initial encounter. If it was a subsequent encounter, this A would be a D. And if it was a sequela, then this A would be an S. So there's only 4 characters here. You had to add 2 placeholders plus the 7th character. A couple more examples on this page. 7th character indicator. We have 4 characters, just like we previously saw. So we had to fill in the 5th and the 6th character, and then the 7th character. For this one, I chose the D. Here is another example here. This has 5 characters with the 7th character indicator. So we have to populate the 6th character and then choose the appropriate 7th character. And for this example, I chose an S. So this is how the placeholders work for the 7th character when you do not have a full 6 characters in place. This concludes the video for the 7th character and the placeholder. If you have any additional questions, please post them out on the discussion board, or you can send me a course message. I'll be happy to give you an answer, and happy coding.